couple of weeks ago, I decided to overhaul the paints in my watercolour palette. It was full of colours that I never used and some colours that I didn't like, and so it never really filled my heart with joy to use it. Now, being a new YouTuber, I of course filmed all this. I filmed myself cleaning out the paint palette and choosing which colours were going back in, and I explained my reasoning behind each of those choices. I filmed myself swatching these lovely pebbles to show you the colours that I was keeping as I narrowed them down. And I talked about paint names and identifying the mystery colours that I'd inherited with no labels. Then I made this to show how beautiful the colours were and how well they worked together. But, and here's where being a new YouTuber comes back into play, I messed up the audio on every single video that I filmed. So I can't share any of that amazingly insightful stuff with you. But let's just assume that it was all very interesting and insightful. The upshot of that little de-stash was that I'm now left with this reduced palette of 12 gorgeous colours, some of which were in the original 21 that I went through, and some are brand new to me. So I've swatched all these colours, but what I want to do now is see how well they mix together and what new colours they can produce. Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name's Danny Williams, I'm a full-time illustrator, and this is the place where I try to rediscover my love of watercolours, as well as trying to develop my skill set, my workflow and my style within the Procreate app. I recently overhauled my watercolour tin. I basically chucked out all the greens and all the primary colours, which yeah, maybe I'll come to regret that, because you do kind of need your primary colours when you're painting. Anyway, I've stripped it back to this colour palette of 12 paints that I absolutely love. They just make me so happy. They just coordinate beautifully. I love them, and there's not a red or a green in there. So because this is quite a limited colour palette, and also because there's a few colours in there that I bought on a whim and I've never used before, I want to have a go at making a mixing chart to see what range of colours I can make from these 12. So, there's a bus going past. That was really loud, sorry about that. Now, I've already said how much I love these colours in this palette. They're muted, earthy, beautiful colours that just, another bus, go really well together. So I've just splodged them out onto the corner of the paper there just because I really like them. I just want to look at them. And here I've already started my colour mixing chart. So I've drawn out all the grids in a permanent pen that won't smudge when it gets wet, and I've written down the names of all the colours along both axes, going in the same order in both directions. So that means this diagonal that I've already filled in are the colours straight from the pan, unmixed. So for example, go along here, we've got burnt umber, and here it meets burnt umber, so that's burnt umber. And I've already started to fill out some of the colours. I've basically done all the ones that have buff titanium in, and you can see they're very similar to that original colour, as you'd expect, because buff titanium, this one, is a very pale, sort of, basically a kind of creamy grey colour, so it's not doing very much to these paints. The chart's going to be split into two sections, so this lower half here, it will be the same colour mixes that are here, but I'll add more water. So you can see, for example, where Prussian blue has been mixed with buff titanium, here it's the same colour, but it's just much more watered down than it is here. Now, there's a lot of browns in my palette. I use a lot of browns because I paint a lot of animals, but I think that means that this whole section of the chart is basically going to be variations of the same muddy brown colour. But I am quite interested to see what will happen when we get down to sort of the blue and yellow combinations, whether we can get some nice greens out of it. And I'm also interested to see what the Potter's Pink and Perylene Violet do, because those are two colours that I've never used before. I just bought them because they're so beautiful. Look at them. I don't even know what I will paint with them, but I just really like them. So I'm quite interested to see what will happen down here on this section. of the chart. So let's go. Some really intense shadows at my desk today. I'm trying to mix a sort of 50-50 mix of the colours here. Now obviously you can achieve much more variety of tones and colours by varying the ratios in which you mix the two colours, and of course by adding more than two colours. So these charts, they're just a sort of starting point, a snapshot of how colours react with one another, but they are quite useful, especially if you're using colours that you're unfamiliar with, or just perhaps a limited colour palette like I'm using. So there's my yellow ochre mixed with burnt umber, and now I'm going to do the same one here, yellow ochre, burnt umber, but it's going to be a much more watered down version of it. I've just realised I've not been wearing my glasses, and suddenly everything's clear, and I've gone over the lines a lot. It's amazing how much easier this is when you put your glasses on. Okay, so now we're coming to the yellow ochre with the Prussian blue. It's quite a bright blue. I don't really know what possessed me to buy it, but it does look good with this palette. And this is the one I'm interested in the most, I think, because this is where I'm going to get any greens that I might get out of this palette. And this is really why you need your primary colours in your paint palette, because the type of green or the type of any secondary colour that you can mix very much depends on which primary colours you use. So although I have a blue in my palette, there are warm blues, there are cool blues, there are blues that lean more towards red and blues that lean away from red, and they will vastly affect what kind of colour comes out when you mix it with something else. But I like this green. It's nice. Now we're moving on to the burnt siennas, and this is one of my favourite colours. It's such a beautiful rich orange, look at that. Can you hear that? I don't know what they're doing next door, but they chose to do it right now, while I'm recording. I just got really excited when I made this brown here. I was like, oh, that is a nice brown. And then I had to remind myself, you got 30 browns over here already. You don't need another one. Right, we've made it through the browns. There was a time there where it looked like it was never going to end, but we're through the browns. That's not to say there won't be more browns being made here, but there's no more browns in the palette. And the next colour is Payne's Grey, and it's one of my absolute favourites. I've said that before, but I really do love Payne's Grey. This is it here. If I could only have one paint colour, this would be it. One colour mix to go, and it's the pink and the violet mixed together, so we're obviously just going to get a variation of pink violet, pinky violet. Finished. And there's the finished chart, and the sun's gone in just in time so you can see all the colours properly. So although these kind of mixing charts do take a while to make, especially if you want to make it neater than the one I made here. It was definitely worthwhile because there's some unexpected colours in there. I wasn't really expecting to get quite so many greens. It's kind of obvious really, because a lot of these browns are quite yellowy based, and when you mix yellow with blue you get green, even if there's other colours in there. But I wasn't expecting quite such a range of greens. I really like this one. Raw Umber and Prussian Blue, that's really beautiful, and that's it in the paler version. And there was some really nice browns came out over here with the Potter's Pink, which is good because, you know, I needed more browns. Do I regret throwing out all the colours from my paint palette? No, I don't think I do, even though there's no red and there's only one blue and there's only one yellow. The way it was before, I didn't enjoy using it. It was full of colours that I didn't like really garish, bright colours that clashed. There were pans in there that never got used. I just didn't enjoy the process of painting with it, and now I've stripped it back to this colour palette that really excites me. It's just much more enjoyable to start painting again, even if I'm going to struggle to get the colours that I want. I think I'm okay with that. Do you have a favourite colour that you absolutely couldn't be without? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you soon.